The StarHub interview is about today. It's about the future of television and digital content. And Tong Hai, the CEO of StarHub, is here with us today, and he's going to look at his view of the future of television and content, focusing on the types of program we may be consuming, what types of screens or devices we may be consuming it on, and also how he sees the industry growing and StarHub's involvement in this whole area. He's going to be interviewed today by James Ross, who's CEO of Lightning International. So let's give a big round of welcome for Mr. Ross and Mr. Tan.
Hi everybody, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, and thank you very much Tong Hai for joining us for this session. We're very pleased to see you here on stage.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Tong Hai, as many of you may know, has been CEO of StarHub just for a couple of months. Previously was COO for several years, and before that a tech background and many different types of management. So perhaps a little bit of a new departure to be running the organization. Now you've got a few thoughts for us today about the future of television.
Yes, I would like to share a little bit more.
Please,
about
go right
how
ahead.
We see. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if we want to talk about the future of TV or digital media, I think most important is for us to understand what are the current business model behind TV. Yeah.
There we go.
So I believe all of you are aware that, of course, there are three models behind this so-called the TV business. And it's very important that, as we talk about the future of TV, one has to understand what funds the TV, right? So there, of course, are three models. The paid model, which is something that I'm very familiar with. Of course, that's what cable operator, we have a paid model. Then we have the ad-funded model, which is free-to-air kind of model. And of course, there's the third model, which is the Pirates Bay model. It's called you have no respect for intellectual property and you just take it anywhere you go, right? So these are the three models. I'd like to just quickly touch on the few models. First, the paid model. I believe the future for the paid model, in my view, is still very bright because we're talking about quality content. And the content providers spend money to create the content. Now, of course, here you get to watch the premium content. Of course, now with HD, you can go up to 4K, and even on multi-screen. Most of the time, you give a good quality set-top box with recording capabilities, with catch-up capabilities and all this. And if you put multiple boxes in the home, you can watch it anywhere. And of course, you have the enhanced experience. So the future for this, I would say the paid TV model have never been better. In fact, if you look at it, what drives this programming is really the viewership information. With a proper set-top box with two-way traffic, you are able to understand the viewership pattern. And of course, that helps the content partners to produce the right program so that it remains compelling, right? So this is the first model, and I believe that it is here to stay while everybody talk about the OTT models, but this model will continue because it's premium content. And if you look at the next model, which is the ad-funded model, there are, in fact, I would consider three scenarios here. Of course, the first one is really the free-to-air, where all of us are very familiar, the free-to-air model. But the challenge for the free-to-air is the analytics, the viewership information, because most of the time it's a one-way traffic. And you can't get real-time analytics. Most of the time you mainly go through a survey or through maybe 750 households, you give them a people meter. And with the viewership so-called pattern, you try to project it for the 1.1 million household in Singapore from 750 household. That kind of data, well, in my view, in current context, may not be the most accurate viewership information. Of course, from the cable operator or from the paid TV model, there's also a new model where you offer it free to all your cable subs, and it's purely funded by advertising. And here you get reasonably good viewership information because of the two-way set-top box. And there's a new model called free-to-world, powered by, of course, YouTube and Google. And I believe that this free-to-world, in my view, presents the most compelling piece of so-called the ad-funded model. If you look at what happened right now is that they combine social media analytics with the viewership analytics. And this combination, in my view, creates the stickiness. And as you try to share what you watch, something very compelling with your friends and all those, and that increased the viewership. And I believe that is the model behind this ad-funded model. Here, it's also interesting to see that this ad-funded model or free-to-world model, they are also getting into the paid model. Lately, I think you just heard about YouTube starting charging for content, branded content. So this is the other model, and I believe that this model is also a thriving model. Now, what you can see is that there's a convergence between the paid model and the ad-funded model. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? So if you are pay TV operator, then why don't you start to offer free-to-cable ad-funded channels? And then on the other end, you have the ad-funded model, and you say, why don't we offer paid content subscription model? So this, I do see this convergence. And if you talk to the OTT players, they will tell you the demise of the so-called the linear models. Whereas if you talk to the linear models, they say it's here to stay, and there's a very healthy advertising component in it, right? So, of course, there is a third model, which is the pirated model. I believe that if we talk about the future of TV, there's no future of TV with piracy, right? So that's something that all of us have to be aware of. It's definitely something that I observed in the Singapore context. Last year, we have the media convergence panel that comes together to see how we can tackle this issue of pirate content and illegal downloads, how we can block illegal sites now. This is something that is not one individual player can so-called handle. So in this case, Casper, Motion Picture, MPAA, and I think content partners all are coming together. Hopefully, we see some action here. I think it has been agreed in principle to block sites, but it must be done on a concerted effort across all ISPs, Internet Service Provider, and not just for a few of them. So I think this is something that we see as a so-called a model that we all have to come together to say, how do we tackle this so that there's a thriving, the paid model or the ad-funded model, right? But if you ask me what is the future of TV, I think we all are too caught up with the platform. Is it the IPTV, is it OTT, is it over mobile phone or whatever? I think the most important part in understanding the future of TV is to understand the consumption patterns. And this is not just the consumption pattern, it's also the behavior. And more important, the viewing habits. If you truly understand the behavior and the viewing habits, I think you got it. That, in my view, is the secret behind the future of TV. And whether you are a pay TV operator now or you're an ad-funded model, I think all of us are driving towards this holy grail called the understanding, the viewership information, right? And I like to end with this quote that, are you watching TV or is the TV watching you? Because with all the analytics, the TV will know that you have not been watching. And it's very interesting. If you look at the handphones, Samsung handphones, you can even flip the screen with your gesture or with your eyes. They will know whether you've been watching. So it's not surprising to see the future of TV having a camera there. And if you're not paying attention, they may even buzz you and say, hey, But what this tells you is that the viewership information, the analytics space is actually very important. And to me, that lies the secret of the future of TV. So I'd like to end here and then perhaps have a conversation on the future of TV, okay? Thank you.
Tong Hai, thanks for those words. I mean, what are people watching, do you think? What do people want? I mean, that's your challenge, isn't it, is delivering something that people want to watch.
Yeah. I think in today's context, if you look at a linear model, sports content is still very compelling. News, real-time news, and also children's program, interestingly. Even cooking programs. Now, these programs may not be the target for all those pirate sites, like education content, children's content, cooking content, food content, and all this. So, in my view, these are still very compelling content.
So is it about offering something different, something more niche, something that perhaps you can't get, as you say, on pirated sites?
Yeah. So content providers have to rethink how they deliver content, because if you do it this way, the traditional way of just showing it, then it's very easy to copy that. I see the more forward-looking content partners developing the second screen. Right? And the second screen gives you interesting information. So you have to, even you want to pirate, you want to copy, you have to copy through, the second screen. And I believe that makes it very difficult, for the pirate sites to try to recopy this second screen experience. So in my view, it's very important for content partners to think of this not just as an enhanced viewing experience, but also as a way to protect your intellectual property.
Well, some would argue that maybe your business is seen as a sort of traditional media business, because you, after all, StarHub and its predecessor, Singapore Cablevision, has been around for, 15 or so, probably all closer to 20 years now. I mean, how do you compete with the plethora of online video, mobile, other people delivering content, which is effectively competing with you, and still expect people to pay for it?
Now, I think it's very important to embrace what people will term as disruptive technology. I've seen too many times when you try to defend what you have, you end up losing everything, right? So I'm always mindful of that while we have a thriving pay TV model, we have to experiment the new TV. So if you use our set-top box itself, it provides you with all the enhanced feature of catch-up, video on demand, everything. So even the traditional pay TV or cable TV platform, you have to enhance it. But at the same time, you have to also put this content onto all the devices that you can think of. Because the younger generation may want to just have broadband, and they just want to watch content on a demand basis. So you will have the need of servicing customers that watch it via VOD, and there will be also those that prefer a lean-back experience and say, hey, I just want to watch it in a packaged manner through the linear channel. So you have to really make yourself relevant. And I think the key word is experiment. I think we ought to experiment and not to fear, to try out, because sometimes you just fear that, look, you may cannibalize your existing business.
So roll with it is what you're saying, is get out there, embrace all these new technologies, do all of these things.
No, there's something we all ought to learn is to practice cannibalism, because I think you'd rather practice cannibalism on your own than to see your competitor eating up your business. I think that's very important, that you have to make sure that when it comes to new TV, over broadband, you are there. Right? And work with the branded content partners, because as they have their OTT strategy, they need a local partner in each market who understand the regulatory regime, the billing model, the customer service model. So find a niche area to work with all these branded content partners. And I'm sure there's a way to team up. I believe that is the way to go. Yeah.
In a moment, we'll give you the chance to ask a question. If anybody's got questions, have a quick think now. Perhaps a little bit, we were just talking about sport just now on the previous panel and the importance of sport, and you mentioned how important it is. It's been an interesting couple of years here in Singapore for you guys. I mean, how do you see it after the events of the last month or so?
Yeah, I believe that it's not just in Singapore. You see what's happening in UK, where British Telecom acquired the Premier League rights too, and started to bundle with the broadband. So you will see different models. Some view the content as something to be bundled and given free to sell broadband. Some will see the content as itself and says, I value the content, I'm selling it, and I may bundle in free broadband instead. I do see that there is a so-called different motivation, different drivers. And in Singapore context itself, I believe that StarHub truly value the content. And we'll be working closely with the content partners on this to see how we can monetize, we can do more localization to create more value. So even sports, there's a lot of opportunity in Singapore with the coming up. The next iconic feature is actually the sports hub. And there's a lot of opportunity to develop local sporting content, right? So I do see that there will still be a need to buy and pursue this sporting rights. But under the new cross-carriage regime that's been instituted in Singapore, I think operators have to be aware of the so-called the rules and play by the rules. I think that's very important. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Questions, anybody? Anybody out there want to ask Tong Hai a question? Nobody want to chip in? Your chance. In terms of, oh, hang on, there's a question at the back there. We could have a microphone over there. If you could say your name and where you're from, please.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, I'm Prashant from the Viral Fever. I run a YouTube channel in India for the youth. My question to you is, you talked about two-way set-top boxes and the data that we can use to analyze, viewership patterns. Is there resistance from broadcasters in terms of moving away from the standard methods of sampling those 750 households for 1.1 million viewers? So is there resistance from broadcasters as far as this new a pattern of analyzing data or viewership pattern is concerned?
Yeah, so when I talk about the viewership information, for example, in the Singapore context, more than 80% of our 500 and close to 540,000 set-top boxes are two-way. And there's only 1.1 million households. That gives you very good viewership information about the household. Though the challenge is to net it down to the individuals within the household. And that is the piece that is still, that puzzle has not been solved. So you have to think about how do you project it to the individuals within the household. But if you want to understand household consumption pattern, the set-top box viewership information is more than sufficient. What you will have to tie in the broadband viewership and the mobile viewership information. From there, you can triangulate and then be able to form certain picture of the household. And that's where you have that projection. The current model that is being used primarily by the free-to-air model is really getting, in Singapore context, a 750 household and have a people meter and do the projection. In my view, that may not give you the most accurate information. But currently, for the pay TV operators, it is still very much household information. But I believe that there's a way to triangulate this information with the other subscriber information that you have to form a picture of the household and be able to predict consumption pattern up to the individual level.
Great. Any more questions out there? Any more questions? Have a think. As far as Singapore as a market for television compared to maybe the rest of the region, the rest of the world, I mean, you can take Singapore compared to China. These, you know, it's chalk and cheese. I mean, do you see similarities, big differences? How do you compare your pay TV business, your television business with other businesses around the region?
Yes, I think Singapore is a very unique environment. I term, in most cases, Singapore as a living laboratory, a living lab. And we have consumption pattern and demanding customers who want to watch it on different platforms. But the market is not that big. It's a small market, 1.1 million households. It opens up a lot of opportunity for international or brands and content partners to think about the localization and testing out the viewership information data. It is in a very unique market where you have operators here that have broadband, mobile, and the pay TV, and you not just have cable TV, you have IPTV over broadband, uniquely in a market like Singapore. I think that opens up for you to understand the consumption behavior. I think the biggest challenge today we face is that the viewership is not on just a particular platform. And that poses a lot of challenge to even advertisers. Everybody wants to understand how the viewership pattern is going to be like. I can't find a better place like Singapore where you can experiment. And I use the word experiment because it is very important to experiment and have that viewership information. And of course, this must comply with the Personal Data Privacy Act. And I think that's also very important. You have to do it within the legal boundary. But viewership pattern, behavior, habits, these are the most important data.
Just before we close, I mean, the challenges perhaps that you face are considerable. Not only do you have a competitor that is growing in size and stature in the television world, you know, you have all of these other things that are coming in. I mean, how are you going to face this? I mean, you're optimistic about it, but how are you going to deal with all of this?
Yeah. So for David to fight against Goliath, you have to be very agile, right? And I think agility is very important. Yes, you can't compete on war chest with all the money to go and buy companies or buy content. But you can be very innovative in terms of how you deliver it through the different, what we call, devices. We have started our own localization. In fact, we worked with TVB recently to localize a program called Ladies First. It was shown last night on our channel. And I'm amazed with this production because this is a case of how we team up with our long-standing partner TVB and do a local production, catering to the ladies in Singapore who wants to know how to, you know, with all the makeup, all the hairstyling tricks and all this. So you have to think of more creative ways. Events like these are very important. Not just show the content, but create the live experiential environment. I give an example. You don't just want to watch James Martin on BBC Lifestyle cooking a meal. You would like to watch him live in person. And how do you work with the content partners to bring this chef down, organize events, and have that 360-degree experience so that you can enjoy the meal. And they also produce the content out of it, you know. And then that's how you make multiple use of the same content and create value. I think there's a lot of opportunity. You can't compete just on using your dollars. You have to compete by being more innovative and have a more agile organization structure.
My final question in our final 30 seconds, what do you watch on TV? What's your passion? What do you like to watch? What's your content?
Well,
I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't...
I watch sports. I watch sports. I know tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., you have the NBA finals, right? I still like basketball. But I do watch football too because, sports is important. In my view, in the next few years, it's going to be the exciting area in Singapore. You can't be building a sports hub and not attracting the top players to come to Singapore, right? What a pity. You need to see that happening, and I'm looking forward with excitement to see. And of course, I know that you're going to organize a Sports Matter somewhere in September. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Geraldine will be very happy to hear that you're a big fan of basketball and the NBA. On that note, I'd like to say thank you very much to Tong Hai, the Chief Executive Officer of StarHub, for joining us this afternoon. Tong Hai, thank you. Much appreciate your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.